Welcome back. Now, the Department of Basic Education says they've done a lot to help the family of 5-year-old Michael Komape, who drowned in a pit toilet in Limpopo. This was 4 years ago. The department is responding to an interview we had yesterday with advocacy group Section27, who are assisting the Komape family to get compensation for the death of their son, as well as forcing the department to provide adequate infrastructure in schools across the country. To discuss this further, we are joined by spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, Elijah Mhlanga. Thanks for coming in, Elijah. We appreciate your time.
Good morning. Thank you.
Before we get into this interview, I think it's apt that we get a response to you from what happened at the school with the young learner who was shot in Ennerdale by his father. I should add in there, allegedly shot, thinking that he was a burglar. What is your response from the department?
Well, we are saddened and shocked by that incident. It's something that's really unusual, and we believe that the police will get to the bottom of the matter to establish exactly what happened, because the explanation that we are getting right now indicates that the father thought his son was a criminal who was perhaps attacking him. But, you know, that's what usually happens in the beginning of an investigation. But as the investigation continues, I'm sure we'll get to understand exactly how it came about that he was able to use a firearm in that way in that school, which would have caused trauma to other learners as well, because it was within the school premises.
Absolutely, and of course eyewitnesses disputing what he's saying, but we'll leave that for now and wait for the investigations to get underway. Let's get into the topic now that we were tackling yesterday, and that was Section 27 coming in and coming and talking to us about the situation when it comes to pit latrines, particularly focusing in Limpopo, and this after the case of young Michael Komape, who died in a pit toilet, and this was in 2014. Basically coming across and saying that the department's been insensitive, as if you haven't done anything for the family. You would like to dispute that, though. What have you done?
Well, what we don't want to see happening is an impression being created that we're insensitive and that we don't care about that family. You know, we've expressed our condolences to the family. We approached the family and gave them the support that they required. We provided financial resources to take care of the funeral arrangements, and we even went further to offer them a sum of money and an out-of-court settlement, because it's a tragedy that took place in that family that we understand. They have lost their child, and we are with them in that pain, which is permanent. And we say that it shouldn't therefore be put across as though the department doesn't care. We just want to go on with our lives without, you know, taking interest in the welfare of learners who are in our care in schools.
Okay, so you've got that side across, so that you are and have tried to assist the family. However, let's talk about what you've done in terms of infrastructure and changing the narrative, because we cannot possibly have a cause of death in this country in 2018, drowning in feces, as a cause of death, which is the cause of death for little Michael Komape. What are you doing to change this?
If you read the judgment as handed down by Judge Gerrit Muller, he does say that the department, even in the court case, presented evidence which showed that work had been done to try eradicate and replace pit latrines in Limpopo in particular. He did say, yes, the work was inadequate because it had not reached everyone. But now let's talk about that. Why is it that the pit latrines have not been eradicated across that province? The problem is two things. The first one is that the department has been trying to allocate tenders, but there are always challenges when it comes to the awarding of such. You will remember that in one instance, in the process of trying to allocate tenders to certain companies, a tender box was bombed in Limpopo's Department of Education, right there on Baker Street outside the entrance, which delayed the awarding of such tenders, although it was a different task that needed to be undertaken. But it does show that there are always external factors that will impact on the work that the department is trying to do. But the other factor as well is that the Department of Education in Limpopo has estimated that for it to be able to eradicate all the infrastructure challenges in the province, it would need 3 billion rand and that money does not already exist. So they try to make do with what they have. But the other thing is that every year that department has to try fix schools that are damaged by the weather every year, and that delays the progress that needs to be made in terms of providing for schools that are already on the waiting list.
You know, these are excuses we've heard for far too many years, and I think I'm speaking for the parents here and the teachers of South Africa, because if we look at this, in 2013 there was a law passed, the norms and standards for fixing school infrastructure. It stated by the 29th of November 2016, all schools must have access to water, electricity and decent sanitation. We are nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. In fact, in 2018, just a couple of months ago, another one of our little children died in a pit latrine. There are still about 9,000 pit latrines being used in South Africa. There are schools that don't have, I mean, the list is endless. They don't have flushing toilets. They don't have running water. They don't have anything. They don't have electricity. We can't sit here and keep making excuses about tenders, can we, Elijah?
It's not an excuse. It's a reality that we have to deal with in South Africa, that tenders are a contested terrain. And in most cases, they delay the work that the department is doing. You can shake your head, but the fact is that if you go to the courts now in Limpopo, you will find that work has been stopped. The department has been stopped from awarding tenders because people are objecting to the tenders that are being awarded to certain people. So that's a reality. Yeah. And once people go to court and stop you, you can't proceed as though you don't respect the law. So that's the reality of the situation that we're dealing with. But we also need to appreciate the intervention by the president, who has now been able to galvanize all other agents of government to come together and collaborate with us in delivering much needed school infrastructure. Because remember, some of the things that we're talking about, they are not within our purview. For example, water and sanitation is not us. But because in education we understand that we need to provide water, we use water harvesting technology to assist schools. We use solar systems to assist schools where there's no electricity, which is not our provision. But we try our best, and we should not also create an impression that we are not doing anything as a department. We've built many schools. Provinces continue to build new schools with proper school infrastructure around the country, but it's not enough because there's a huge demand for education space in South Africa today.
But it appears that rural schools are the ones that get ignored constantly. And I bring into point the school that Michael Komape actually went to. In court, this is on court records, you have the principal stating and saying that 10 years ago she was already contacting the department saying, guys, we need toilets. 2004 she wrote a letter, 2005 she wrote, again 2008, again 2009. No response, no action was taken. Eventually they took it upon themselves to hire somebody to build with the cheapest material possible some form of pit latrine, which then took little Michael Komape's life. And this is not right, because why are you not reacting to these schools that are speaking directly to you?
Every year the department allocates monies that go directly to schools, and that money is for maintenance of schools, for fixing whatever that needs to be fixed. So it's up to the SGB as well to do its work to try and maintain a school. And there are many things that other schools do as well to try provide good infrastructure. It's not just the department, the district office is there as well, but also the schools through the SGB. Others will do fundraising. That's what I'm saying. What is going to assist is what is happening now, where through this directive by the president, private companies have come through as well to say, here's 20 million, here's 10 million, let's work together and solve this thing. Because we can see that government on its own, you don't have the capacity in terms of financial resources, even the skills. We don't have professionals in the build industry that come to the department and stay, because the salaries of the public sector are not the same as those in the private sector. The people, the specialists that are required to build this infrastructure are not in the public sector. They're in the private sector. We recruit, they come 6 months later, they are gone, because we can't compete with the private sector. So that's the problem. We don't have the specialists in the departments so that they're able to help us to do all these specialist work that need to be done. But now with this intervention, we are going to do that. That's why we appreciate the work that the president has directed us to do. And indeed, that judgment is also very important, because the judge has said we need to give him a costed plan which is going to help. that is also going to get other departments that should be involved in this to come on board.
Yeah, once again, courts having to get into the mix and the loss of lives have to get into the mix for something to actually be done. Investigations by someone like, or an organization like Equal Education, who went into Limpopo, they looked at 18 different schools, random schools, rural schools, to see how they were performing. I'm sure you've seen the report. 4 of the schools had water, 14 didn't. None of them had soap. None of them had sanitary bins. 2 had toilet paper. 16 didn't have toilet paper. How can we let our children go like this?
The things that they're talking about are things that the SGB should do through the money that we give them. That's what I'm saying to you. The money goes directly to the school. What did the school do? So, you know, to us, everyone really needs to do what they're supposed to do. We do our part. The SGB must do its part as well. But courts are also very important because they give us clarity and they also help us in education to get other departments involved, especially when they don't respond when we talk to them in the normal course of business. So when there's a court order, everyone jumps and the work gets done. So we appreciate these court processes because they accelerate the work that needs to happen at the speed that we need.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you for coming in. In the interest of time, we have to wrap. But that was the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, Elijah Mflangu, talking to us about school infrastructure and the problems needed to fix what's going on in schools around the country.